This is unequivocally not a drill. In the last 24 hours, the United States Congress has taken a vote that fundamentally alters the political landscape. The House of Representatives has passed articles of impeachment against Donald Trump by a margin so razor-thin that virtually no one anticipated it. Right now, at this very moment, the complex machinery of constitutional removal has been set in motion, and the events that transpire over the next 72 hours will determine whether American democracy survives intact or collapses into a form of governance we have never witnessed before. I am going to guide you through exactly what is transpiring behind closed doors, exposing the secret negotiations that mainstream media outlets will not touch, and outlining the 4 potential scenarios that will begin to unfold starting tonight. But here is what you need to understand immediately. This situation is not analogous to 2019, nor is it comparable to 2021. The political calculus has shifted dramatically, and sources deeply embedded inside the Capitol are confirming that GOP senators are engaging in conversations they once swore they would never entertain. If you want real-time updates as this constitutional crisis unfolds, you need to subscribe right now. Hit that red button below because I will be breaking news the second it happens. Do not rely on cable networks that are lagging 3 hours behind the actual events. Let us delve into the specifics. Inside the House chamber yesterday, the tension was palpable and suffocating. Representatives were not merely casting votes, they were drawing definitive lines in the sand that cannot be uncrossed. The final count came down to 218 to 217. A single vote made the difference between decisive constitutional action and political stalemate. That margin tells you everything you need to know about how deeply fractured this moment truly is. Within minutes of the gavel falling, Trump fired off a response on Truth Social that sent shockwaves reverberating through Washington. He labeled the vote a witch hunt and a hoax, promising unequivocally that he would never resign under any circumstances. His language was defiant, aggressive, and, according to sources close to the White House, exactly what his legal team had advised him against using. But Trump does not listen to lawyers. He listens to his own instincts, and his instincts right now are screaming at him to fight. Meanwhile, the silence from GOP leadership is deafening. Kevin McCarthy has not issued a statement, and Mitch McConnell has not taken questions from the press. That silence is not neutrality. It is pure calculation. When powerful individuals go quiet during a crisis, it means they are waiting to gauge which way the wind is blowing before committing to a definitive position. And that hesitation, that split-second pause, is where the real battle is currently being waged. But here is what nobody is talking about. This vote is not the endgame. It is merely the opening move. What comes next in the Senate is where the Constitution will either hold firm or shatter completely. And the comparison everyone is making to Richard Nixon in 1974 is fundamentally flawed. This is not Nixon. Nixon did not have social media. Nixon did not have a base that worships him like a movement leader. Nixon did not possess the ability to communicate directly with 70 million people instantly. That changes everything, and it makes what is coming far more dangerous than the Watergate scandal ever was. Let me break down the legal mechanisms that are now in play because this is where most people get confused, and that confusion is exactly what allows politicians to manipulate the narrative. There are constitutionally only 2 ways to remove a sitting president from office, and both of them have massive obstacles that are not being discussed honestly in public forums. The first path is impeachment, which has just occurred in the House. But impeachment alone accomplishes nothing. It is an indictment, not a conviction. The real trial takes place in the Senate, and that is where the math becomes brutal. You need 67 senators to vote for removal, 67. Right now, Democrats control 51 seats if you count the independents who caucus with them. That means you need at least 16 Republicans to cross the aisle and vote to remove a president from their own party. Historically, that has never happened, not once. Trump was impeached twice before, once in 2019 for pressuring Ukraine, and once in 2021 for inciting the January 6th insurrection. Both times, the Senate acquitted him because Republican senators chose party loyalty over constitutional duty. The second path is the 25th Amendment, Section 4. This provision allows the Vice President and a majority of the Cabinet to declare the President unable to discharge his duties. If that happens, power transfers immediately to the Vice President. But here is the catch. The president can challenge that declaration, and then Congress has to vote. You need a two-thirds majority of both chambers to keep him removed. That is an even higher bar than impeachment, and it requires the president's own appointees, people he personally selected, to turn against him. J.D. Vance invoking the 25th Amendment against Trump is simply not happening. The cabinet members owe their positions to him. They are not going to commit political suicide. Now, here's the part that mainstream media is completely ignoring, and this is where the situation gets critical. There is a third mechanism that nobody is talking about. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, also known as the Insurrection Clause. It states that anyone who is engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the United States cannot hold federal office. This clause is self-executing, meaning it does not require a Senate trial, nor does it require 67 votes. Multiple states have already attempted to use this provision to bar Trump from their ballots. Colorado, Maine, and Illinois all attempted to disqualify him under this provision before the Supreme Court intervened. But if Congress formally invokes Section 3, the calculus changes entirely. That is the nuclear option nobody wants to discuss because it bypasses the traditional impeachment process and goes straight to constitutional disqualification. So, who is really pulling the strings behind this impeachment vote? Because I promise you, this did not happen organically. There are power players operating in the shadows, and their fingerprints are all over this development. Start with the mega donors. The Koch network, which has bankrolled Republican campaigns for decades, has gone silent on Trump. That silence is not accidental. When billionaires stop writing checks, politicians notice immediately. Peter Thiel, who was one of Trump's biggest Silicon Valley backers in 2016, has reportedly told associates that Trump is now a liability. These are not partisan Democrats. These are Republican establishment figures who built the modern conservative movement, and they are walking away. Then you have the split inside the GOP itself. There is the establishment wing people like Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, and Susan Collins who have always been uncomfortable with Trump but tolerated him because he delivered judges and tax cuts. Then there is the MAGA hardcore, the Matt Gaetzes, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Lauren Boeberts who are ride or die with Trump no matter what. That internal war is tearing the party apart, and the impeachment vote just forced every single member to pick a side publicly. Now let me tell you something that leaked just 48 hours ago. Sources on Capitol Hill confirm that 12 Republican senators held a private meeting in an undisclosed location, no staff, no record, just 12 of them discussing what happens if Trump actually goes to trial in the Senate. The content of that meeting has not been made public, but the fact that it happened at all tells you everything. They are preparing for a scenario they publicly claim is impossible. And here is the kicker. Text messages between Trump and some of his closest allies have reportedly been subpoenaed. If those messages become public and legal experts say they likely will during a Senate trial, the contents could be devastating. We are talking about potential evidence of witness intimidation, obstruction of justice, and coordination with individuals currently under federal indictment. But the real question is this: why are even Trump's most loyal defenders starting to hesitate? The answer comes down to cold electoral math. If the GOP ties itself to Trump and loses badly in 2026, the party could be out of power for a generation. Let me lay out the 4 scenarios that are now on the table, and I want you to understand that each of these is a real possibility. This is not speculation. These are the war games being run inside strategy rooms right now. Scenario 1, Trump wins. I give this a 40% probability. The Senate holds a trial, but Republicans hold the line. Fewer than 16 GOP senators flip, and Trump is acquitted for the 3rd time. If this happens, he will emerge more powerful than ever. His base will see it as vindication, proof that he is untouchable and that the deep state tried to destroy him and failed again. He will rally his supporters harder, and the 2024 election becomes a referendum on persecution versus patriotism. But here is the danger. If Trump survives this, it sets a precedent that is catastrophic for the future. It means a president can do virtually anything, and as long as his party controls 34 Senate seats, he is immune. Look at what happened in Turkey with Erdogan. Look at Hungary with Viktor Orban. Democracies do not collapse overnight. They erode when accountability mechanisms stop functioning. Scenario 2. Trump falls. 30% probability. Something breaks. Maybe it is those leaked text messages. Maybe it is a whistleblower from inside the administration. Maybe it is financial records that get unsealed showing illegal transactions with foreign governments. Whatever it is, it has to be so undeniable, so damning, that even his defenders cannot spin it. If that happens, 17 Republican senators will find the courage to vote for removal because suddenly protecting Trump becomes more dangerous than abandoning him. This is exactly what happened to Richard Nixon. It was not the Watergate break-in that ended his presidency. It was the Saturday Night Massacre, the moment he fired the special prosecutor and the tapes proved he had been lying all along. Nixon did not resign because of evidence. He resigned because Republican senators told him he would be removed, and they told him that only after their own voters turned against him. Scenario 3. Constitutional crisis. 30% probability. Trump is convicted and removed by the Senate, but he refuses to leave. He claims the trial was rigged, that the vote was illegitimate, and he barricades himself in the White House, or Mar-a-Lago, and continues to claim he is the rightful president. At that point, who enforces removal? The Secret Service? The military? This is not theoretical. We saw a preview of this on January 6, 2021. But there is a fourth scenario that absolutely nobody in mainstream media is willing to say out loud, and this is the one that insiders believe is actually the most likely outcome, the backroom deal. Here is how it works. Republican leadership people like Mitch McConnell and a small group of senior senators go to Trump privately. No cameras, no press, no public record. And they offer him a way out. Resign voluntarily, and in exchange, you get a full pardon for all federal crimes. Your legal problems disappear, you avoid the humiliation of a Senate conviction, and you get to control the narrative and claim you are stepping down for the good of the country. This is not fantasy. This is exactly what happened with Richard Nixon in 1974. Nixon resigned, and Gerald Ford pardoned him 1 month later. It was a deal negotiated in secret that allowed Nixon to escape prosecution. And right now, multiple sources close to Trump's inner circle are confirming that this conversation is happening. His lawyers are reportedly telling him that if he goes to trial in the Senate, evidence will come out that could lead to criminal indictments. He cannot escape state charges that a presidential pardon cannot touch. Because here is what changes the equation this time. Trump is not just facing federal exposure. He is staring down state-level prosecutions in New York, in Georgia, and in other jurisdictions where a president has zero pardon power. The Manhattan DA has financial records showing potential bank fraud, tax evasion, and falsification of business documents. The Fulton County DA in Georgia has him on tape asking officials to find votes. Those cases do not go away even if he cuts a federal deal. So the real question is not whether Trump can survive a Senate trial. The question is whether he can be convinced that resignation is his only path to avoid prison, and that negotiation is happening right now. Now let me take you beyond American borders, because what happens in Washington does not stay in Washington. The entire world is watching this, and the implications are staggering. NATO allies are terrified. Behind closed doors, European leaders are asking the same question. If America cannot hold its own president accountable, how can we trust that your security commitments mean anything? The transatlantic alliance, which has kept the peace in Europe for 75 years, is built on credibility, and credibility is collapsing in real time. Meanwhile, adversaries are celebrating. Vladimir Putin is watching this chaos and smiling. Xi Jinping is taking notes. Because every day that America is consumed by internal political warfare is a day that Russia can advance in Ukraine, that China can threaten Taiwan, and that authoritarian regimes can point to the United States and say, "See, democracy does not work. Look at them tearing themselves apart." Financial markets are reacting too. The Dow Jones has been volatile. Bitcoin spiked as investors look for safe havens outside traditional systems. Gold is climbing. These are not just numbers. These are signals that global confidence in American stability is shaking. And here is the long-term nightmare scenario. If Trump either survives this or burns the system down fighting it, the message to every other democracy on earth is clear. Strong men win, institutions lose, and accountability is optional if you have enough loyalty and are willing to fight for you. That is not just an American problem. That is the end of the rules-based international order that has governed the world since 1945. Everything from trade agreements to military alliances to human rights norms, all of it rests on the idea that democracies are stable and predictable. That foundation is cracking. So what can you actually do about this? Because I know a lot of you are watching this feeling powerless, like these decisions are being made by people in rooms you will never enter. But that is not true. Public pressure works, and history proves it. First, call your senators. I am serious. Not an email, not a tweet. Pick up the phone, Senate offices, track phone calls, and when they get flooded with constituent calls, it moves the needle. The number for the Capitol switchboard is 202-224-3121. Call and tell them how you expect them to vote. Second, peaceful protest matters. The civil rights movement did not win because of backroom deals. It won because millions of people showed up in the streets and made inaction more costly than action. The same thing happened during Watergate. Public opinion shifted, and once it did, politicians followed. Third, use social media strategically. Hashtags like #HoldThemAccountable and #ConstitutionalCrisis are trending right now. Amplify voices that are demanding transparency, but here is the key. Do not just share outrage, share action items. Tell people how to contact their representatives. Give them the tools to apply pressure. But let me be very clear. This has to stay legal and peaceful. Vigilantism destroys movements. Violence delegitimizes causes. The moment this turns destructive, you lose the moral high ground and you hand ammunition to the people you are trying to hold accountable. Let me bring this together because we are running out of time, and the clock is ticking faster than most people realize. Here are the 3 things you need to lock into your mind right now. First, the House vote is done. Impeachment has happened. But impeachment is not removal. The Senate trial is where this gets decided, and that trial could start within 72 hours. Second, the next 3 days are the most critical window in modern American political history. Backroom negotiations are happening right now. Senators are being pressured from every direction. Evidence is being compiled. Legal strategies are being finalized. What happens between now and the weekend will determine the outcome. Third, this is not just about Donald Trump. This is about whether the system of checks and balances that has held this country together for 250 years still functions. If accountability fails here, the president will shape American politics for the next 50 years. So here's the question I want you to sit with. Are we watching the collapse of the oldest democracy in the world, or are we watching the moment when the system finally finds the courage to heal itself? Because it could go either way, and nobody knows yet. I am tracking something right now that I cannot fully report yet, but it involves financial transactions between Trump-affiliated entities and foreign oligarchs. If what I am hearing is accurate, it is going to blow this story wide open. Stay with me. I will have that update as soon as I can verify it. But for now, understand this. We are in uncharted territory, and silence is not an option. Subscribe to this channel right now, hit that red button, and turn on notifications because I will be updating you the second anything breaks. This story is moving by the hour, not by the day. Share this video everywhere. People need to know what is really happening, not the sanitized version the networks are feeding them. Drop a comment below. Do you think Trump survives this, or is this finally the end? I want to hear from you. Tonight, I am going live to cover the Senate response as it happens. Join me. This is history unfolding in real time, and the truth will not be silenced.